Welcome to Pure Dog Talk. I am your host, Laura Reeves, and we are here at the AKC National Championship Dog Show that's being brought to you by Royal Canin, and Pure Dog Talk is being brought to you by the Era Media Group. And we are having the opportunity to speak with Jason Taylor. And Jason, you are kind of in charge of this entire bonanza.
I don't know, in charge might be, a little liberal, but yes, I think that on paper at least. And,
it said so. That thing they gave me, it said so.
I think that's right.
So you've been doing this actually for quite a long time, since before Royal Canin was the sponsor, right? From when it was the other Eukanuba, the dog show we don't say, right?
That's right. But actually, it's quite all right because we're sister brands now,
okay,
and
all
so
right,
it's
good.
fine. But yeah, I started with Eukanuba in 1998, and of course in 2001 we created what was then called the AKC Eukanuba National Championship. And we had a really good run with Eukanuba as the lead sponsor of that event. We built it from what was, I think some probably thought, may not really survive as a show.
It was definite. I mean, I was showing dogs at the time, and I remember thinking, because the first one actually was in LA, and this is a true story, folks, and I'm putting it out there. I actually didn't go to that first dog show because I was sort of morally offended.
Sure.
Right? Like that was to take us back that far.
Yeah.
That was a pretty common thought.
Yeah. It was.
So you really have taken it a very long way to go from me going, oh no, we don't go to dog shows where you make money to win. That's just wrong.
Yeah.
To, really embracing that concept.
Yeah. And I think that the money aspect of it, of course, was a big consideration when we created the show 17 years ago.
Right.
And it had to do with how do we make sure that we create an event that is prestigious and important for breeders and exhibitors, but also for consumers. And a show needs to generate PR. It needs to generate awareness. And in this day and age, it can be a difficult thing to do. Everybody's putting out news, and it wasn't terribly different then. Just the media were different. And so, I remember that sentiment existed back then. I hadn't thought about it in a while.
I think of it each year when I come to this. I think how far really the sport has come and has changed the way we think about things.
Sure.
And I think for exhibitors who weren't here 17, 18 years ago, that is a different concept. So I like to bring that kind of and think about where we are, and that this has developed into such an enormously huge and successful operation.
Yeah. You know where I think the turning point was? I don't know if it was a turning point, but one of the things that we got right early on and that we continue to focus on and remind ourselves about was that this is an event, and it's about celebrating breeds and celebrating breeders. That's why there's the Bred by Exhibitor competition that continues.
Absolutely.
That's why, for example, you will not see tiny little rings at the national championship.
Holla!
And it just will never happen. And it's because both from our side as the sponsoring company, but also from the American Kennel Club, every year we sit down, we think, boy, there are some real benefits to shortening up those rings, creating more rings, etc. But we can't get there because if you've got a big moving breed, we need to be able to see the dogs move big. And it's a hard thing to get, and I get it. Shows across the country, facilities are hard to come by. I mean, there are a lot of reasons that we can't always have it this way, but at least for this show, this is the way it's going to be.
Well, and you're an Afghan guy.
I am.
So there you go.
Personally biased.
People, I'm just saying, if you want big rings, go to an Afghan guy. He gets it.
That's right. Afghan hounds, German shepherds, they run on football fields.
Yes. So, crazy time.
It is.
And so this year, I thought I was really excited to see this puppy junior thing.
Yeah.
And I think it sort of exceeded its expectations, didn't it?
It did. It was an idea that I had in mind about, and of course there were puts and takes. I can take you through some of the genesis of it, but I just like the idea of introducing at the national championship, again, another moment where we would celebrate the future stars of the sport.
Right, back to celebrating breeders, really.
It is.
And
it's
that's
another
so
way that we
important.
could recognize breeders. Now, not too many years ago, we introduced Friday as a specialty day.
Correct.
Again, because I thought that if we created a day set aside for specialties, that might even attract breeders more and make the event more appealing for breeders.
Well, and you can use that, the owner handler,
Exactly
and
right.
builds all that in.
It all kind of comes together. And so then it just made sense that we would also add a puppy event, a puppy and junior event, for some of the same reasons. But I'll tell you, when I sat down and I drafted out what I thought the event would look like and how it would be judged and et cetera. And I worked with Gina DiNardo at AKC, and together we kind of refined some of the rules and qualification criteria, et cetera. And we got to the end of it and we thought, we like this. And really, if we could get, 500 puppies, we would consider that a success.
Well, and that's a big deal. People are going to make some money and
Right. And then when we were doing some of the promotion of it, Gina and I did a Facebook Live thing together promoting the puppy and junior stakes, and we put out a challenge kind of between us rolling our eyes that wouldn't it be something if we could get 1,000 puppies at the inaugural AKC Royal Canin Stakes?
Right.
It was beyond any dream that we would get 1,200 and something puppies entered in that event yesterday. I mean, it was just amazing.
I have to tell you another personal story. I have a very exciting young dog at home that I wanted to bring so bad. I was so mad because I couldn't get him here.
Yeah, it's funny you say that because my wife says to me, "Can I show?" And I'm like, no,
that's a no.
I think she's ready for me to do something else because every year she wants to, and I'd love to bring one of our dogs here and compete at this event, but it's just not, obviously can't be done.
I feel you. But that I really, I think that is very exciting, and it is, again, another thing that people are like, I want to show my puppy. He's really,
Yeah.
So.
And of course there are things to consider, right? It's a big week, and it's a busy week, and this is an enormous facility, and you think, well, from a always thinking dog first perspective, is it okay? But I think that what we demonstrated, I believe this week, is that we can figure out a way to make this work, and that everyone is mindful of the care and the needs of their puppies,
right?
And we still make it work.
Right. Excellent. And so, talk to me a little bit about. That scheduling gets so crazy.
Yeah.
So. What do you think about that?
Well, the first thing I'd say is that they're good problems to have, right? Because if
this is definitely a win-win.
It is. It is, but it's also some of this trouble we invited onto ourselves, and we knew we were doing it just because Friday was already a busy day. More than 30 specialties, 2 group shows, the National Owner Handled Series, and then we put a puppy stakes on top of it.
Okay.
But it's National Championship Week.
Yeah.
And so I just think that it's one of those problems that we knew we were going to have, and we were going to struggle and just work as hard as we could to sort out all those scheduling issues.
Right.
Quite honestly, they were worse than we thought they would be because we had no idea that we get 1,200 puppies.
1,200 dogs, right? Well, and I think, too, you had a great entry in the National Owner Handler Series.
Exactly right.
Okay, so again, same problem.
Yeah.
And you've got a couple, national specialties here.
Exactly right.
Okay,
There have been a couple of breeds that are bringing their nationals here.
Yeah. So, great to be that successful.
Yeah.
And I personally, for people who aren't here who were wondering, and you hear a lot of, kvetching.
Yeah.
But I think realistically, people handled it pretty well. Like the stewards, they held up a ring if they needed to. Yeah. I really thought they did a good job in a very tough situation.
It's a tough situation, without question. It's a tough situation.
Absolutely.
But you're exactly right, and that's something that I think we all, I guess we're aware of, but really got convinced of as the day went yesterday, where on paper it looked like conflicts, but then just reality happens. So, the lights went off in the building because we...
Who is that? I walked outside and came in, I'm like,
I don't
what?
know
There's Armageddon?
I don't know if all the English sheepdogs decided to flip on their dryers at once. I don't know what happened. Maybe it's the Afghan hounds.
Maybe the Afghan hounds all went at once.
But for whatever reason, we just kind of browned out the building. But do you know what happened? Because of that, it created delays in rings, and all of these conflicts on paper kind of just evaporated.
There you go.
Now, I'm not going to, I'm not suggesting that we turned off the lights for 10 minutes. I don't want to. It was completely
I'm betting
serendipitous
that it
happened.
wasn't an accident, no.
But yeah, it worked out. Now,
Right.
I think that as we, come back and think about what next year is going to
Right.
look like, we learned a lot. And I think there are slight tweaks that we can make,
Yes.
both in the scheduling of the specialties, the owner-handled series, and then also the puppy and junior stakes, where we're going to be able to relieve some of that. But I just think it's
a busy day.
It's a problem of
Yep.
success.
And absolutely, it is a problem of success. And, handlers who come and they have a lot of dogs, I'm like, what?
Yeah, it's kind of
Yeah.
choices that we have.
Exactly. Everybody makes choices.
Yeah.
Okay, so talk to us a little bit about, this is a big and successful show that you've been largely responsible for doing. A lot of our listeners are show chairs themselves.
Yeah.
Talk to us about, how do you get sponsorship money? How do you get people to come to your dog show? How do you make it more than just a nightmare?
Yeah. Well, I tell you, it's this event, of course, is unique in that there are corporations involved.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
television contracts and other things, and so it's hard to draw any kind of a comparison between this and, let's say, even the largest of national specialties. But as I think about, so I've been show chair of my
Right.
local
Right.
club. I've put on
Right.
breed specialties, and I think it comes down in a couple of areas, and the principles maybe for this show are the same there. It's
Absolutely.
just a different
That's what
scale,
I'm
and I
saying.
think we have to figure out, all right, where's our revenue going to come from? And I don't think it can solely be entries.
Yes.
There are just too many fingers in that entry pie
Yes.
to rely solely on entries. I think that clubs have to get creative. I'll give you an example, and I'm aware of this one. I'm not giving you this one because
Right.
it was me. I'm just saying it was an example of something that worked. In the African Hound breed, we have a number of artists. I don't know why, but there are a number of artists in the
Yeah,
African
beautiful
Hound
breed.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
and it
Appreciate
probably attracts
beauty.
that person.
Right.
So we were doing a World Congress, and I wanted to keep the entry fee of the World Congress low because I wanted a high attendance. At the same time, let's face it, there are expenses to putting on any kind of event, and you got to cover them somehow.
Absolutely.
And so I went to a select number of artists, gave them a theme, and asked them to create a piece of whatever media that they worked in. Could be clay, could be oil, could be jewelry, could be whatever they wanted to do.
Nice.
And then, and we promoted it for a year. We would show pictures of the artwork of the different artists as the pieces were being developed.
Oh, very cool.
And then that made the night when we, of course, were going to sell all this
Sure.
art a gala night, and there was a buzz in the room.
Nice.
And so, I'm not suggesting that everybody has the ability to do something like that, but
creative and think outside the box.
exactly right. Let's create something. I think a lot of breeds, I mean, there's always like stuff around with our breeds on it,
Right.
but most people already have that stuff, or else
Right.
it's not interesting to them anymore. So the reason I think this was successful, these are going to be one-of-a-kind things, right? And by the way, I did not ask the artist to donate these pieces. And this was key, because I think when you ask for donations all the time, they kind of get worn out, and you end up with, something from the back of the closet that they don't really like, and they're tired of dusting or whatever, rather than something unique, on a
Here,
theme,
I'm paying
one of a kind.
you. Yep.
And so
Nice.
I gave them a cut of whatever it sold for, and it really worked out well for everybody. The artist appreciated it.
I really like that.
Paid
That's
for
a
the
great
event.
idea.
So I think figuring out a way to just figure out where your revenue is going to come from is an important thing, and you've got to get creative about that. The second thing is, I think you've got to be absolutely just maniacal about expenses, and make sure that the money you spend is in the right places. Make
Right.
sure that it's going to show up. And then the third thing about any event is, of course, trying to generate awareness. And
Yes.
I think that it's hard for clubs to do that. They don't know how.
Right, and I think that would be, I've talked to a couple of people, like the Kennel Club of Philadelphia.
Yeah.
Talked to him, the same thing. How do we help these clubs
Yeah.
reach out to the media and understand that they can get people from the community to come to the dog show
That's exactly right.
like see stuff and build that enthusiasm.
Yeah, exactly right. And I think in most local areas there are local newspapers or city newspapers, or even in this day and age, people who are doing things like this, right? There are
Yep.
bloggers, there are
Yep.
people who podcasts, etc. And there are individuals in every market that are interested in dog things.
Mm-hmm.
I think that a lot of the problem that we say, well, where's the attendance at the dog show? I think it's because they didn't know about it.
Right.
They didn't know about it.
Right.
Because I think Facebook pages are so important. I think making sure that you proactively reach out to those people in your community, even if they're not dog show people, if they are dog people, they will be interested in your dog
Right.
show.
They want to go and see one just like Snoopy.
Yeah,
or
exactly
what
right.
have you. Yeah.
And I think we have to think short-term, long-term as well. It's like, yes, short-term this year, we've got to figure out how to make money, and so maybe we need to charge a gate. But long-term, the more people we drive into the show, then the happier the vendors are going to be, right? The more product they're going to sell, which means they want to come back.
Yep.
And so these are all things that support the show.
Right.
So I think that you just have to look in every corner to figure out how can I optimize this in a way that is going to make it more appealing to the general consumer, more appealing to the exhibitor, and more appealing to the vendor.
Right.
I think those are the areas that
Yeah, and I
focus on.
think you really hit on it. And I think one of the only other things that I really like, and I think has been very successful here and in other venues, is the additional attractions.
Yeah.
Like the producer will tell you, dog shows are as boring as watching paint dry, right? You gotta have something for the general public
Yeah.
to look at.
I think that's right. And dog shows are hard. They're hard to me for a couple of reasons. One, we start them at 8 in the morning, and the most activity of the day happens at 8 o'clock.
Yeah.
And as the day gets later, there's less and less to look at.
Right.
Right? Because of the format of a dog show. Unfortunately, you think about families in the community with kids.
They're not coming at 8
Their
o'clock in the
day
morning.
happens in the opposite way,
Right.
right? There's
Right.
little going on, and it grows as the day gets later. And when the dog show schedule of the day and the family schedule of the day intersect, it's not always ideal.
Absolutely, a very, very good point.
Yeah, and so I think that, to your point, having things for them to do, to look at, to get involved with is vital. Because then they go back and they tell their friends, and their friends
Yep.
come back the next day,
Yep.
and et
Right,
cetera, et cetera.
exactly. No, I love that.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Well, thank you so very much, Jason.
It's been my pleasure.
Appreciate it.